What's up guys, your friendly neighbor Demon here bringing a new video, and today we're going to be talking about the ESL Pro League Season 13 event preview. Here we go, ESL Pro League Season 13. So I literally just recorded this video, and then as soon as I finished recording it, they announced some new stuff for it, so I'm going to have to re-record it, and here we go. I probably made talk for too long in the last version anyway, so I'm going to try and be more concise about my information that I'm sharing and the storylines that we have going on here. But yeah, they literally just announced the group draw for the season 11. Season 11. Where the hell did I get that from? Season 13, and they also essentially they announced Fun Plus Phoenix as the final 24th team of the tournament, which originally I believe was meant to be an Asian qualifier. But clearly, because of COVID and everything like that, there's probably some complications about all of that malarkey. And to be honest, none of the Asian teams have really played a HLTV game since last year, literally December 2020. So we've got several months gap. So I don't know really what's going on there, but we have Fun Plus Phoenix standing in or qualifying or whatever for season 13. And interestingly enough, Chris J has not worked out, it seems, and they're having Sunny as a stand-in for Fun Plus Phoenix. The negotiations between Chris J and Fun Plus Phoenix broke down, so Sunny is stepping in, which should be exciting to see. But yeah, they just announced the groups for this as well. So before we go into it, let's have a look at the groups, I guess. So Group A, we've got Big, Heroic, Complexity, OG, Renegades, Fun Plus Phoenix. Group B, Vitality, G2, Mouse, FaZe, NRP, and ENCE. Group C, Na'Vi, Furia, Gambit, Cloud9, Team 1, MIBR. Group D, Astralis, Liquid, Virtus.pro, EG, Fnatic, and Endpoint. Now, to be honest, this is my first time reading these groups, and my initial thoughts are, oh my god, there's some big matchups in these groups. There's some interesting group draws right here. I mean, we've got all the Brazilian teams in Group C. We have Liquid and Astralis in Group D together with EG. We have Group B, a bunch of Euro mixes, G2, Vitality, Mouse, FaZe, including some big mix-ups. A FaZe Carrigan versus Mouse Sports in that group. And then Group A, we have the new Heroic, Complexity, Fun Plus Phoenix, the new edition. We have Renegades, the Oceanic qualifier. There's some really interesting group draws already right here. We can look at it a bit clearer right here. So let's talk about the season a little bit. It starts on March the 8th, which is a week today of me recording this. Next Monday, we're on March the 1st at the moment. And it's going to last till April the 11th. So it's literally over a month of play we've got going on here. The reason being, the format is essentially a round robin best of 3 for all of the groups. So everyone's playing everyone in these groups, and they're all best of 3s. So that is going to take a long time. If we look here, the first group is starting next week. So Group A will be next week, and then all of the groups have been going on till right up the end of right up to the end of March. Did that make sense? Yeah, it probably made sense in some way. And then the playoffs will start, and we'll be looking at the playoffs finishing on April the 11th. So it's a long old season. It's a proper league as opposed to just a tournament for a week. There's going to be a lot of Counter-Strike played, a lot of interesting things going on in this Pro League, because there's quite a few teams that have made changes, some teams that are trying to prove themselves after making changes, and some teams that we haven't really seen for a while in this league. So there's a lot of teams, so I'm gonna skim over some of these things and go on sort of the main talking points, hopefully, so the video won't be too long. Fingers crossed, because I recorded it before and it was like 45 minutes long, which is way too long. So let's get into it. So yeah, quickly skimming over the teams taking part in the actual Pro League, and then we'll talk about the groups initially and skim over some things or some predictions that I think that are going to happen, and some storylines that are going on. We have Renegades, who are the Oceanic qualifier essentially, which is great to see. We're meant to see an Asian team as his 24th spot. Renegades, who have brought on Alistair after Dexter, their IGL, went to Mouse Sports, and we'll see how they do. Obviously, we don't expect too much from them. Team 1, Brazilian team, they competed in NA last year. They were basically part of all the bigger tournaments in NA, alongside Chaos, CG, Liquid, and all that. We have a new look to ENTS with a bit of a European mix. Sphinx, Diha from Israel and Poland, and then Snappy Goto from Finland and Denmark. One of the British represented teams in Endpoint with Mighty Max and Surreal. Flames, we know another Israeli talent, and then Robin and Crucial. Hoping that these guys do well. I believe they won MDL season 35 to qualify for the EPL. We have MIPR, another Brazilian team representing in the Pro League. Bolts, they've been and all that. Like, they've been in EU for a while. They've had a few tournaments to get going. Some moderate success, a couple of map wins, some series wins. Nothing to write home about too much. Cloud9. What do you say about Cloud9 now? Not quite the Colossus we expected just yet, but they still have some real prospect to them. S13 is picking up the AWP instead of Alex moving forward, but it's still also another British represented team, Alex and Mezzy. Mezzy, man, I love watching this kid play. His aim it reminds me of Rops. He's so calculated in what he shoots and when he fires and etc. He's so precise. It's so fun to watch him play. I really hope this team does start figuring things out. S13, supposedly experienced with the AWP. He's pretty good with it, supposedly. I haven't really seen much from him, but we'll see what happens. Fun Plus Phoenix, the new addition. As we said, Sunny is standing in instead of Chris J now. I assume Sunny's going to be IGLing because that's the missing piece to this team. Which will be interesting. It'll be cool to see Sunny on the server again, see what he can do, see what the team can do. It's quite a cool team, quite a good mix of players, fun mix of players. So we'll see what they can do. Not expecting too much. FaZe, man, I hate the org, but I love this team, man. Twist, Cold Zero, Ray and Carrigan, and Brokey. This is a mix that can definitely be a top 5 team, in my opinion, in the world. Give them 6 months, I think they'll be there. Let's see how much they can implement Carrigan and their new system with Carrigan. Hopefully they will do well in this tournament. Fnatic, I'm just going to go Fnatic and NIP at the same time here. Both Swedish teams, both Swedish disappointment as usual. The initial tournament with Jaquinho, Fnatic did really well. I think it was in CS Summit. Made it to the final, lost to VP in the final. Since then, they failed in the Katowice play-in. They didn't make it through to the main event. So I don't expect too much from them moving forward, to be honest. NRP, similar thing. They had talent, but they just don't seem to make anything work at the minute. They have really good players, but there is just something wrong with the Swedish CS at the moment. I have nothing else really to say about that. Mouse Sports, we have Dexter and Acor coming on. Acor less recently, but Dexter, he got added just before the IM Katowice play-in, I believe. They actually made it to the main event where they didn't win any series, but an okay showing. First showing with Dexter. There is actually rumours that Rops might want to leave Mouse Sports from someone's stream. We'll see if that actually does happen, but he'll probably be playing in the EPL as this 5-man lineup anyway. Let's see how Dexter does. Let's see. This is interesting because he's come from Australia. He's leading an EU team. He's has to get used to the team have to get used to Dexter's calls, and Dexter has to work out how to play in EU as well. Gambit, they just won IM Katowice yesterday. Can they carry on the form that they've shown, the talent that they've shown? Shiro, clearly a talent, definitely one of the top players in the world. He's proven it against the best now, and he's won his first big tournament. Hobbit and basically all this team have proven themselves as top players. Their system is working. They're very confident. They're playing with each other. Let's see if they can continue that. G2, another disappointing team. Mixed results since adding Nico. Will they actually become this team that we thought they could be with Nico? I think the big crutch in their ranks is Kenny S at the moment. Is he actually going to perform as a top AWPer like everyone thinks that he is? Because he isn't and hasn't been doing for a while. He needs to find some form, or to be honest, it's to me it's looking like Kenny will get replaced at some point for someone who is on fire. Because you can't have the AWP slacking in this day and age, especially when it's in the hands of Kenny S. You expect him to do some crazy things, and he just needs to find how he does that. OG, they just dropped one of their long-standing members, or one of their founding members, I guess, in MBK. They're actually interestingly looking at Nico from Heroic, who just got benched on Heroic for Shush and Refresh, but we'll look at that in a sec. That will obviously have to be announced before they play. So they're actually in Group A, so they actually start playing next week, so they're going to have to make a signing fast, OG, otherwise they're going to be left dead in the water. We'll see what they can do. Obviously, it's still a very promising team. They've plateaued, they've dropped off a bit in 2021. Hopefully a new addition of a new player will reignite them, and they can continue rising these ranks. We know that they can probably be one of these top stable elite teams. Everyone thought it'd be ISO to be dropped, but it is what it is. EG, man. Okay, so Ethan, he's gone. He's gone to Valorant, man. He's dropped his bags and he's left. Real shame, because Ethan is a really likable player. He hadn't really been performing how people expect him to. He's supposed to be one of these top talents in NA, and he just hasn't been putting up these numbers really. So maybe he just lost the motivation for CS and he's decided to try something new. So fair enough to him. Who are they going to pick up? That's the big question. Is it going to be an NA player? Is it going to be an EU player? It makes more sense to be an EU player because they're living in EU at the moment, and it would probably be easier to pick someone up from EU. There's a lot of talent in EU, but we'll see. I'm excited to see their announcement. Again, they're in Group D, so they've got till the 25th of March to actually figure some things out. EG announced yesterday that Ethan was leaving though, so I guess in the next week or so we'll find out who the next player is. I don't think they'll wait too long unless they haven't actually found anyone, which will be a surprise to me because I feel like they would have been prepared for Ethan leaving, but we'll see. Furia, they had a great showing with Junior's first outing, I'd say, or a decent showing. Junior actually played really well versus some of the EU teams, his first EU tournaments that he's played. So they can definitely do damage in this tournament. It's big shoes to fill with Henny, but Junior so far has definitely shown it, and switching to English hasn't really seemed to hinder them that much. These days you can imagine that these teams who have been playing in NA and everything like that would be pretty good at English anyway at this point, so it's probably not too much for trouble switch from Portuguese to English. Maybe there's a couple of things here and there, but they have to talk in Portuguese to figure some stuff out. But definitely a still very promising team, and an exciting team to watch is a big thing. They're very fun to watch. Complexity, one of the most stacked rosters in the world, I'd say. They just have Poison back in the group stage of I think it was the Blast groups, wasn't it? Yep, the Blast Premier Spring groups. They had Poison back and they absolutely destroyed everyone. And then they kind of disappointed a bit in the Katowice play-in. I suppose it was a bit of a honeymoon period as Poison came back, and they're all very excited. But this team has so much potential, man. It's so stacked. If we can get JKS performing and clutching like we knew he could, he's obviously had a really rough start to being on Complexity. If he steps up, I think this team is going to be a real force to be reckoned with, and they could win really big things. So we'll see how the team has developed since Poison has come back. Heroic, this team has just made 2 changes. They've changed. Let's find the article just here. Where is it? The Heroic bench brought up a Nico. Heroic sign Jush. How the hell do you say this, man? Jush. I don't know. And Refresh, 2 clearly talented players that were playing for Mad Lions previously. Refresh, he's been on a couple of teams now, Copenhagen Flames. Optic is the first time he played for Optic Gaming, the Danish Optic that was dying at the time, and that's when he first came to my attention. They've decided to refresh their roster after not finding top success in the last few months, which is fair enough. And Nico's potentially going to OG, as we said. Borat was one of their lower rated players, so it's fair enough to change him out. And Tess and Stown are clearly the best players they have. KD and IGL Orp, he can pop off. We know it, we've seen him do it. So this is actually quite an exciting team. Still, I'm very excited to see how Refresh and Shush fit in, and they keep their identity as well. This this fiery Danish squad. So yeah, excited to see that. VP, they just made the final of Iron Katowice. This team is insane, man. They didn't put a step. They haven't put a step wrong for such a long time, and then they fumbled in the final of Iron Katowice. Even in the first map, they looked so well drilled. They looked so confident in what they were doing, but Gambit just overthrew them, and they lost their mojo a little bit. This team are incredibly good. They showed themselves as avant-garde in the last in the Berlin major. They made the final and lost to Astralis, obviously. So that's the second big final they've lost. But with Yakindar and basically all 5 of these players, they're clearly a very talented squad, very confident in the way they play. So they're definitely going to do some damage in this league. Liquid, they had a great showing at IM Katowice. They beat Vitality, they beat Na'Vi, they beat FaZe after FaZe beat them twice at the Blast Premier Spring Groups. So they looked a lot more confident. And this series against Na'Vi was an absolute banger, man. I recommend watching this last Inferno game because it was so exciting. It was probably the most exciting map of Katowice, in my opinion. Really hotly contested. And I think that this series is actually what broke Na'Vi to lose out in the quarterfinals, because they just didn't turn up to the quarterfinals the same team. We'll talk about that a bit more in detail in a sec. Big, same 5-man lineup they have been for a while. I don't really know what else to say about them. I'm surprised they're still ranked number 4. I think I said this in a previous video or something, but they haven't really done anything of note other than being well, I mean, they did well at the Blast Premier Spring Groups. They beat NIP, they beat Astralis, they beat OG, and then they did okay in the play-in, and then bombed out of the main event at Katowice versus G2 and Heroic. So they're clearly a very talented team. We know they can do well. They've done big things last year. Can they find form again though in 2021? And sort of prove themselves as one of these elite teams, but we'll see. I think they could, but I think they could slip down the rankings a little bit unless they step up again. Vitality, okay, the top 3 elite teams that everyone says, the best 3 teams in the world that everyone was previously saying before IN Katowice, it's kind of been shaken up a little bit by Katowice. But Vitality, they've had a couple of off tournaments recently, partly because in the Blast Premier Spring Groups, Apex had to leave for some weird reason that we don't know about. Not going to comment any more on that because it could have been, it's clearly a personal matter of some sort. So they lost the complexity with Apex, and they lost to EG when Apex was out. He was back for Katowice Apex, but they beat OG, and then they lost to Liquid and VP. Obviously 2 teams that played really well in Katowice. But we do expect Vitality to beat these 2 teams. So we'll see how they perform moving into the Pro League. We know that they're incredibly good. They have Ziwu, the best player in the world supposedly, that's for the last 2 years running. So they should be beating most of these teams outright that are in this tournament. Na'Vi, the other best player in the world, they have Simple. As we said, they lost to Liquid in the final group stage of IM Katowice, and they got dropped down to the quarterfinals. This was playing for a semi-final spot. They got dropped down to the quarterfinals, and Na'Vi lost to Gambit in the quarterfinals. And Na'Vi just didn't look like they turned up to the quarterfinal, man. Gambit, I mean, clearly they were playing well. They won the whole event, but Gambit just didn't look like... Na'Vi just didn't look like they turned up to the quarterfinal, and we need them to start turning up again. They obviously had an incredible run recently. Look at all these heads that they took, and all these series wins. So they can clearly do damage still. They're one of the elite teams, as we said. But can they continue this? Because they are a really fun team to watch when they're playing well for multiple reasons. Boomich and Perfecto are super fun to watch. Simple electronic duo, incredibly fun. And then Flamey and Bit supporting in the background. Yeah, we'll see. And then the last team we have here is Astralis. Can they prove themselves as still the king #1 spot team? To be honest, I don't think they're the best team in the world anymore. I think there's a lot of teams that can contend for their position at this point. We've seen the rise of CIS region in the last tournament and how good they can be. And Astralis haven't been the dominant force for a while now, in my opinion, that they have been in the past. Obviously, 4-time major winners, as we know, and they haven't performed particularly well at Katowice. They didn't perform well at the Blast Spring groups. They didn't win the Blast Premier Global Final against Na'Vi. Can they refine their form and prove to us that they are still the best team in the world? I think it's going to be incredibly interesting to see how that develops. Supposedly they're a 7-man roster. They announced a 7-man roster, having one of the Astralis talent guys come up, and they've got Bobsky on the sidelines as well. They didn't play either of them the entire time in Katowice, so they're not, in my opinion, they're not really a 7-man roster at all. But we'll see what they do in moving into the Pro League. So let's talk about the group stage then. So as we said, round robin, best of 3. The way I think it works is the top guy makes it straight to the playoffs, and then the second and third place make it to sort of a play-in stage where they play for a quarterfinal spot or something like that, basically. So you would need to be in the top 3 to make it past to the next stage. Group A, we have Big Heroic, Complexity, OG Renegades, Fun Plus Phoenix. 4 teams, I think, can definitely qualify for the next stage, being the top 4 on the list. I assume that's going to be similar. The top rank, yeah. So the top. This is basically in a ranking list already. Big in this group should definitely make it through, at least in the top 3. It's definitely a toss-up between these 3. Obviously, Heroic and OG are making roster changes, so it's going to be interesting to see how they perform. Quite a competitive, interesting group for sure. I don't know who to pick, really. I would guess Complexity are going to turn up and do some damage and probably make it through, and then Heroic and OG will probably swap for that last position. Group B, Vitality, they should go through, as we know. This is quite an interesting group for sure, with Mouse and FaZe, the new IGLs in these teams. I really want FaZe to go through and perform in this tournaments and see how they do with Carrigan. Mouse, I think, it's really hard to say how Mouse will do with Dexter, because we don't really know how they are going to do and how Dexter is going to perform against these teams after having a bit more practice. I think it's an outside chance that NIP and ENCE can make it through, but really we're looking at Vitality, G2 and FaZe most likely to prevail in this group, and hopefully it should be really competitive and interesting. Group C, the Brazilian group. Half of these teams are Brazilian, interestingly enough. So we've got MLBR, Team 1 and Furia, and then 2 CIS teams, Na'Vi and Gabit and Cloud9. Obviously, at this point, we do expect probably the top 3 teams in here to make it through. Team 1 and MIBR, I think they'll struggle. I think they could cause some map upsets and everything. But I don't really expect them to beat the likes of Gambit or Na'Vi. I think them playing against Furia will probably be interesting. All these Brazilian matchups are going to be fiery, so that's something really to look forward to. And can Cloud9 perform and cause I think it would be an upset for Cloud9 to make it through with these 3 teams above them. But let's see what kind of practice they have with S13 with Yorp and these role switches. I think they still can be a really good team, so we'll see what they can do. And then Group D, we have, I mean, look at the names in this group, man. That is a stacked group. And then you've got Endpoint at the bottom. Yeah, I mean, we expect Astralis and Liquid to perform. and to be honest, VP as well. These top three teams are probably a lock-in already. I don't expect Fnatic to do well. Endpoint, I think they'll be competitive. I think they'll show that they deserve to be in the EPL, but I think they will struggle when it comes down to the nitty-gritty side of things. I don't think they've quite got the talent on the team they need to beat the likes of these juggernauts of CS. They've been chucked in at the deep end with this group for sure. But let's see if they can take a map off some people. EG, we'll see. We don't know who they're going to pick up yet. I don't know how to say this or to predict them. Depending on who they pick up, they could probably pick up, cause an upset. They've got time to practice with the new guy if they pick him up soon. They could already be practicing with him, to be honest. And Fnatic, I don't expect them to do anything, to be honest. Well, I mean, they could Fnatic can definitely perform. Let's not pull them out of this. But with these three teams in it, it's an outside chance to actually make it through. There's not really a lot else to say, I think. Tell me what you think in the comments. I've gone over this really fast, to be honest. But there's so much going on. So many storylines and interesting things. Man, I'm excited to see FaZe play. I'm excited to see how Gambit and Virtus Pro do. It's a shame that Spirit are not involved in this as they are, as they should be. They're actually ranked number 7 in the world at the minute, so it's a shame they're not actually involved. But you know, it's different ways how you actually be part of this ESL Pro League, etc. So, but it's super. To be honest, I don't see why FunPlus Phoenix are in over them, but they by the ESL World Ranking, but. Okay, it is what it is. However that panned out, it probably panned out before Spirit actually popped. FunPlus Phoenix were probably part of it before Spirit actually popped off and proved themselves as one of the elite teams, or one of the elite is a strong word. One of the top teams. But yeah, really looking forward to this. It's going to be a month long of CS, seeing how everyone shapes up to each other, who can prevail. So comment, let me know who you think is going to do well. Subscribe for more, and we'll see you soon.